Good morning. It's that time again for the PulseWave Report with yours truly, the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave Price Trigger Reports. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this morning we do have our live Q&A that's going to come to you around a little bit after 10, maybe 10, 15 minutes after 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this morning. So you definitely want to come with your questions ready. We'll be able to answer a whole bunch of questions. And it'll be fun. This is like our third or fourth, maybe our fourth one we did so far. So yeah, definitely going to be fun. We always have a lot of fun. You guys normally come with some pretty good questions. So bring it. But before we get to that shortly here, there's some more sad news coming out of Texas. I did not know that some Texas shelters were closed. And as a result of that, we have homeless people that froze to death. That is despicable. That is not supposed to happen in the United States. Okay? That's ridiculous. You don't want to see reports like this. For over 6 hours, a long line of people in search of shelter stood huddled together waiting for the doors of the George R. Brown Convention Center to open. Local Houston media reported of the chaos that unfolded earlier this week as Texas temperatures plunged to deadly levels. The homeless in Houston, as well as in other states, hit by the monstrous winter storm and polar vortex, which pummeled up to 2/3 of the nation this week, in many cases barely escaped the streets in time to avoid exposure. Also, as social services and charitable centers themselves struggled to stay properly staffed or even open, given the widespread power outages and water infrastructure problems. But a number of homeless people also died in circumstances that could have likely been easily averted. This is sad. As of Thursday night, the death toll nationally from the winter storm, which most intently impacted the unprepared southern states, topped 40 people killed. Some among these were homeless who didn't enter a warming center in time or even tried to survive inside cars. As Bloomberg describes, unexpected blizzard-like conditions which rapidly swept most of Texas prompted rescue teams to deploy in search of homeless who hadn't yet entered into shelters. In Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and other cities, social workers and volunteers fanned out to search for unhoused people and usher them into emergency warming centers. When community shelters reached capacity, churches and nonprofits opened their doors to those seeking refuge. However, the report continues, not all found shelter. On Monday, a Houston man was found dead in a van after he declined to be taken to a warming center. Another man was found dead on a highway median. Tragically and almost unbelievably, in some cases, shelters were limited or actually shuttered altogether by pre-existing COVID-19 restrictions. Once again, not because of COVID, but because of human beings' response to COVID, which was the shutting down of warming centers. Really? Many said because of COVID-19, there was no room in other shelters and that this was their last hope to find warmth before the temperatures pummeled Sunday night. They gave out a list, a resource list. I called them, and it's the same thing. Everybody is not opening due to COVID restrictions. This is a quote from a Houston resident named David Barker, and this is what he told KTRK News. That is disgusting. Well, we got a social distance, so we can only take 5 people when we're used to taking 500. This is just ridiculous. A separate report out of Louisiana similarly described the city of Lake Charles grappling with ways of addressing the local homeless problem, made worse by restrictions posed by the COVID-19 rules and regulations, which has severely limited resources and building space based on social distancing and other ridiculous and absurd precautionary measures. It's believed the pandemic precautions left many more on the streets than normally would have been at a moment the homeless were exposed to freezing temperatures, blizzard conditions, falling ice, and negative wind chills. So you were more afraid of the COVID virus than you were a person freezing to death? Again, lack of ability to do critical thinking. You have a 98% chance of surviving the coronavirus, but you have a 0% chance of surviving sub-zero temperatures. What is wrong with people today? I don't understand. Now, see, situations like this, elected officials should be fired. Every elected official should be fired. I told you to vote them out in November, but you didn't listen to me. I told you to vote out every Democrat and Republican and replace them with independent candidates, but you didn't listen to me. I'm looking at a picture right now in one of these warming centers. This great big old open space, and not even 25% of it is being utilized because of stupid social distancing. See, when you put these ridiculous belief systems into practice, you learn really quick that they don't stand the test of reality. They fail. When real situations are put to the test, this is your result, which it leads you to only one conclusion, and that is that it's being done on purpose. Again, how can you draw any other conclusion except something like this? This is absurd, and it's going to get even worse. These untested, ridiculous rules and regulations that won't work in the fantasy world and definitely don't work in the real world. So let's break this down. We have government bureaucrats turning people away from government-funded shelters to die of exposure because of non-scientific, politically contrived fear-mongering policies. They died of exposure while the money was spent on shelters and people to manage the shelters, left exposed to the elements, but shielded, protected from the flu. This is why America is on the decline. Okay? These are the true facts. The U.S. government felt that they had to let the homeless Americans freeze to death. Otherwise, they might have been exposed to a cold virus that kills 3% of those infected and 99.7% infection survival rate. You're left with no conclusion except for your government's trying to get rid of you. There you go, right there. If you needed proof of that, there it is. And if that wasn't bad enough, how about insult to injury? How about receiving ridiculous electric bills? Some people are waking up this morning and finding that they're being hit with enormous electric bills. I don't know what to say. The rolling blackouts that plunged up to 15 million Texans into darkness amid a historic cold snap are diminishing by the end of the week. About 188,000 customers were without power in the state on Friday morning, days after power prices jumped from $50 per megawatt to more than $9,000 per megawatt. The horror stories pour in for those who had power this week during grid chaos, as they are mind boggled how their energy bills skyrocketed. None of these horrifying power bill stories should be a shock, as we described to readers in earlier that this would definitely happen. Texans who were on a variable or index plan with power companies are only now reporting their bills have jumped hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, for 1 month. Royce Pierce told Newsweek he owes electric company Griddy $8,162.73 for his electricity usage this month. He said that's a massive increase from his usual $387 bill. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a misprint. I know it's mind-blowing. It's absurd. It's absurd. Some people are getting electric bills that are more than what they pay in an entire year for electricity. Someone even tweeted and showed their bill that they got was $3,800 for the month. See, people get bamboozled all the time. These so-called variable energy plans are just like variable rate mortgages. It may start off as 0%, but by the time you finish, that rate could go up to 12%. So this adding insult to injury. That's what they do. That's what they do. All right, I gotta get ready to go because we got this Q&A coming up. So let's just roll this up. Something else I need to bring to your attention. Cocoa prices slump on record surplus as demand collapses. This month, JP Morgan quant Marco Kavanik made the bold prediction that the world has entered a new commodity supercycle. Across the board, commodity prices have been soaring as inflation pushes higher, but there's one beam that is off everyone's radar that continues to stumble as record surplus and poor demand have kept prices muted. On Thursday, the International Cocoa Organization, known as ICCO, released its monthly report that specified a massive surplus in global cocoa was reported for the 2020-2021 season that runs through to the end of September. Now, ICCO recorded a surplus of about 100,000 tons for the 2021 season, which compares with a surplus of about 19,000 tons for the 2019-20 season. Now, I have to tell you this. Actually, I'll save the comment to the end. I'll say that comment to the end. All right, so cocoa's demand slump could be due to a less chocolate consumption among consumers, as many restaurants, resorts, movie theaters, and concerts and other entertainment forms have had capacity limitations or closed in the last year. For instance, cocoa processors are not even expected a revival in demand this year as the viral scamdemic suppresses air travel and consumer spending around the world, according to Bloomberg. Now, the Cocoa Association of Asia said chocolate demand could increase in the second half of the year as travel restrictions are limited and vaccine rollouts are successful. In terms of absolutely strong recovery in the next couple of quarters, that's a tall task, Chairman Alvin Lee said, adding that several countries are seeing new waves of infection. The second half could be stronger because of a combination of increasing demand and restocking. All right, and cocoa's ICCO daily pricing in dollars per metric ton shows prices remain under 2019 levels and range bound since COVID lockdowns. And cocoa prices are negatively diverging from the Bloomberg Commodity Index as it rockets to the moon. Did Dr. Cocoa just replace Dr. Copper as the indicator of global economic recovery? We shall see. Now, those were factual numbers that you just got. So now let's look at the truth. The truth is that cocoa is a less known gangster type of a market. You see, unlike crude oil, which the key gangsters is the United States government, cocoa has a gangster called the Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast has been in turmoil and been in shambles for I don't know how long. It seems like every other month there's a military coup, and it's just chaotic. It's chaos over there, right? For the longest time, cocoa traded pretty much under 900. It really did. It traded under 900. Then it just went to ridiculous numbers after that, and it stayed there for a long time. Cocoa used to be probably the most thinly traded commodity market out there next to pork bellies and lean hogs. But all of a sudden, I'll never forget the day. I will never forget the day that it happened. There was a military coup or something, and the cocoa market ran up over 100 points right after the opening in the morning. Now you may be like, what's 100 points? Ain't nothing. Okay, let me put this in perspective for you. Cocoa moving 100 points back then. All right, this is back then. This is back in the, late 90s, early 2000s. All right, this was before 9/11, put it that way. It would have been the equivalent of the Dow Jones moving like 5,000 points in a day. Okay, this was enormous. And because cocoa, like I said, was one of the most thinly traded markets that you can trade, the trading pit went bananas. It was ridiculous. The trading pit was just overwhelmed. They were used to getting maybe a couple of hundred tickets a day. I think that day they got 20,000 trade orders. You're talking about a little teeny tiny pit that, like I said, gets maybe a couple of hundred orders if it's lucky in a day. Well, they got over 20,000 that day. It was chaotic. Needless to say, cocoa went into a fast market, and under fast market conditions, no orders are guaranteed, not even market orders. All right, they were like, we don't know what to do. It was ridiculous. Up until that point, I had never seen anything like that. That was the wildest market condition I had ever seen. I had never seen anything like it. It was just bananas. So watching that was quite interesting. And there's only one other YouTuber here, one of my peers here on YouTube. He was actually working on the floor at that time, on the trading floor. And he remembers that because he was clearing trades for one of the firms that I worked at. All right. So I was on the trade desk and he was on the floor. So it was hilarious. It was a very hilarious day. I know you guys have heard me talk about it before, but every now and then we bring it up. Every time I go over there and say what's up to him, or sometimes I go to his trading room, I'll be like, just stick my head and be like, "What's up, man? What you doing? What my cocoa orders at?" It's a running joke. But no, he's a cool dude. But anyway, yeah. So I don't really I don't really, shed a tear for cocoa because cocoa has been, like doubling, tripling in price. It's been up like what 200-300% since the late '90s, early 2000s after this situation that happened. So it, finally retracting that and getting back to normal. I don't see why not. To be honest with you, I don't. Not shedding a tear over that. I'm not seeing this as really, big news per se, with the exception of like the article is stating that has cocoa replaced Dr. Copper in that it's showing that economic slowdown is accelerating. So I think drawing those two parallels is quite interesting, and I have to look at it like that. Last but not least, and then I'll let you go, and we'll get ready for the Q&A. There is another article here as Goldman Sachs is warning of a record February options expiration, claiming that it could lead to market chaos. I can't say that they're wrong or that they're, fear mongering, because options expirations have always been interesting. All right. Especially when you get that quad witch, when everything is expiring on the same day, futures, stock options, all of that. Yeah, that can be it can be a beast. It can be a bit volatile. I've seen the market do some pretty weird things on those days because typically, options are designed to expire worthless. All right. Futures contracts trade on contract months. So every, like 90 days, whatever, those futures contracts expire. Options on those futures contracts also will expire. Then you got stock options expiring. You got the SPX options expiring. So it's it can be interesting because the market's trying to punish as many options people as it can. So it's trying to find out what is that pristine number that the market needs to close to make everyone who holds those options, what we call in the business cabinet, worthless. So yeah, I think that's interesting. So that's why we got the rally and crash alerts, man, with the pulse waves. That's why I created that. The rally and crash alerts used to be called bot checks back in the day. When I first designed them, they were called bot checks. And they have grown into full-blown rally crash alerts now. So I've taken the original bot checks and ramped it up. So these rally and crash alerts, they're pretty accurate. You tell me. But let's see, the notation here. They have a list of like 40 stocks with the highest open interest expiring on Friday. And that's Tesla, GameStop, Chipotle, to name a few, Amazon, Apple, Nvidia, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Netflix, let's see, CRM, Shopify, Boeing, Disney, Walmart, I think that's MasterCard, I think, PayPal, JP Morgan, Twitter, Bank of America, Snow, Adobe, Qualcomm, Intel, and Roku. And PLTR, that's when I get a lot on the end of their reports. A lot of those are expiring. So you might want to be careful, do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. It could also be nothing. All right. But whenever reports are put out, it's good just to pay them a little bit of attention. You know what I mean? And not just flat out dismiss them. All right. So just something to think about as we go into the weekend. All right. I'm out of here. Got to get ready for the Q&A. So stand by for that. Hope you have your questions and stuff ready, and we'll have a lot of fun with it. All right. Smash that like button. You know what it is. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. Peace.